Brilliant. G'day everybody, Mike Irving here from Advanced Business Abilities, and I'm here with Kaz Makepeace from Why Travel Blog. How are you, Kaz?
Great, and hi everyone, thanks for joining us. So I'm going to be chatting about how to give and receive feedback. Very interesting topic.
It can be a little bit of a challenging topic.
Totally.
Yep, so it's something that I think a lot of people don't like either one, giving or receiving. It can be challenging in both, and it's actually a really important skill to develop. So go ahead. Well, what's your experience of it?
Okay, if you're not receiving feedback, then how can you grow? And then in giving feedback, you're helping other people to grow as well. So I think it's all about how you look at it. Taking a step back from it being personal and being something that can actually help you rather than something that's there to criticize you and make you feel bad.
Yeah, I agree. The being on the receiving end in particular is, it's important to, I find a lot of people talk about being important to be willing to experience feedback. So, be willing to hear it, be willing to look at it, be willing to inspect it, and listen to what someone else is saying, whether you agree with it or not. The thing that's, I think, not often talked about is actually being on the other end.
On the giving end? Or,
being the one that is providing feedback. That is actually just as challenging, if not more so, than being on the receiving end.
Yeah, because I guess a lot of people feel quite confrontational if they're giving feedback or worried about upsetting somebody else. And
that's the one right there.
Yeah.
The real button that I've found, like what I've observed, both for myself and in others, is the button is that they're unwilling to experience upsetting someone. And so instead, what they tend to do is they do their best to sugarcoat it.
Yes.
They do their best to sandwich it, or I think the Americans call it hamburgering it. Tell them something really good first, and then give them the meat, then give them the critical stuff, but then really finish it off with something nice and positive as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what I would do as a teacher with children, and that did really work well. It does work well.
Yeah. It absolutely does work well. And particularly with adults, it only works well if you're totally willing to hit the nail on the head with the meat.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, it just gets lost because you're being too nice, or you're sugarcoating it too much. Obviously, I'm certainly not saying that it's important that we just blast a person with here are the facts. It is about doing it. The big thing that happens, I think, is actually that it's the tone that is used when someone gives the feedback.
I was going to say that, or the intention, because we pick up people's intention by their tone and body language, the words they use, etc. Yeah.
Now, the other thing that can happen is that it's real easy for there to be an unintended tone.
And what does that look or sound like?
If we go with let's go with an example. I happen to know that you have a partner. He may even be in the room at the moment.
He's behind closed doors.
Okay, there you go. He's locked away.
Get in there.
And I know that I have a partner as well. Have you ever said something to your partner, and you could hear that it came out with a tone that you didn't really mean?
Like
what happens? What happens when that
you get a snapped response in return?
It creates upset is what it really does, doesn't it? It creates an upset. It creates a misunderstanding. It creates a big challenge. And that's an example of where that can happen. But if we're giving feedback, a similar thing can happen. So the skill, I think, for giving and receiving feedback, the skill is being able to communicate with a neutral tone. Now, neutral does not mean robotic. Neutral does not mean that there is zero intonation or inflection in your voice. Neutral is neutral and natural.
And I guess if you're coming from the space and, before you give feedback, just take the time to pause and breathe so you get into that space of actually wanting to help somebody, and that's your intention for feedback, will that natural tone come out?
If you have a clear intention to communicate with a neutral tone, and if you've practiced that skill, then yes, it will.
So this is something that really requires practice.
100%. It's in my reality, yes, that's absolutely true. It also, like, to receive feedback is something that's to be practiced. There is no such thing as, I don't know anybody who can just sit down and automatically, effortlessly do that first go without problem.
Yeah, receiving.
We're emotional. Yeah, or giving. We are emotional beings. Like we have emotions. We've got emotional experiences. So those are skills that are to be practiced. Those are skills that are to be put into practice and to use your awareness as you do it.
Right.
That's my reality. You can see that there are some people who are very, very good at it, and they're generally people who have done lots of it. So they've had lots of practice. They've done it badly. They've made mistakes. They've in essence failed at it. They've learned from errors that they made, and as a result, they get better at it.
Yeah, that's true. I've certainly gotten better at receiving feedback, particularly in the line of work that we do. We're always getting a lot of feedback. And it's
often uninvited.
Yes, it's the uninvited stuff. And the uninvited people have clearly no idea how to give feedback because they'll start it with abuse and insults. And of course, who's going to listen to that? And their intention is totally different.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, and there's a totally different situation, because that's not an unintended tone. That's an intended tone.
Someone projecting their misery and anger onto you.
Yeah.
You become an easy target for them.
Yep. So I personally think that if you are going to give feedback, and this is, to me, step number one, if you're going to give feedback. And step number one, this is going to be probably really simple and really obvious, and this step gets skipped all the time. And the step for me is ask for permission.
Okay, I like that. Yes, that does get missed all the time.
Can I have your permission to ask a question? Or may I have your permission to give you some feedback? Or would you like some feedback on da 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 da?
And when you do that, you're automatically coming from a space of respect and kindness, which the person will pick up on that and get the opinion or the idea, okay, this person actually doesn't want to criticize me or make me feel bad. This person actually wants to help me. Is that what you find?
Absolutely. If you just launch into feedback without permission, or if you launch into asking questions without permission, and how does that feel?
Yeah, it feels like someone's intruding and, telling you what to do and invading. Yeah.
Invading, there's forcefulness to it.
Yeah.
So asking permission is a really simple step one.
Very simple.
and you can do it in the way where you just ask, look, can I have your permission to ask you some questions about what you did here?
Mm-hmm.
Or can I have your permission to give you my observations of da-da-da-da-da, and just fill in the blanks? Permission. That way it's not forced. It's not forced upon. It's not, you're not demanding that they listen to you. And asking permission is a way of positioning yourself as being supportive.
And that makes it easier for the person to hear it then. I guess that just opens them up. And I think in hearing feedback, maybe, I don't know, you can shed some light on that, but I'm sure one of the steps to that is being open to hearing it and being kind of relaxed and comfortable about it.
Yeah, it's the words that I use to say that is that it's about being willing to experience the feedback. So this is the other, it's not necessarily a trick, but by asking permission, what you're doing is you're giving this person choice. If they say yes, they've chosen.
They've chosen to hear it and be part of it.
Yeah, so they're now much more willing to hear it. So, you know, I ask lots of questions when I'm, as you've experienced yourself, you know, the confidence igniter, I ask a lot of questions. And I actually haven't, I'm not remembering this. I'm absolutely certain that I asked you, I think I asked you on video, do I have your permission to ask you questions?
Oh, you did several times. Yeah.
Yeah. That I'm remembering that now. I actually, well, can I have your permission to ask a question about da 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 da? It just changes it changes the interaction. You're confirming that this person's choosing to be asked questions or to hear my feedback or to hear my point of view. Does that ring true to you?
Yeah.
And what does that do? That maintaining that choice point, what does that do?
Oh, well, it made me feel like I was free to share and listen. I didn't feel like I was being imposed on. I was way more open and willing to experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and that nails it, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Now, we tend to get upset when we get feedback that's unwelcome.
Yes, because we feel like, who are you to tell me that? I didn't ask for your opinion. Yeah. Your opinion was not requested and is not welcome. Yes, exactly. And then it doesn't matter what they say because you're not listening because you're
closed off.
You're closed. You're upset with them, you're frustrated, you're like, I don't care what you've got to say because I didn't ask you to say anything. Yeah.
So if you're going to be the giver of feedback, there's a great starting point. Ask permission. And
then if someone says no, then you just go about on your way and say,
no problem,
no worries, let me know if you change your mind in the future.
That's it. Yeah. Now, if you're going to be the receiver of feedback, same thing applies. Can I ask for you to give me some feedback about da-da-da-da?
Can you tell me what you think about this?
Yeah, and be really honest and blunt. Like, I really want to understand your perception of what we've created here. Be really honest and blunt with it.
And I think a lot of people don't ask that because they're frightened of what they're going to hear. I think it's really important for the person who does want to receive feedback to understand that if they're going to request it, they're going to be willing to hear the feedback whether they like it or not.
And there's those words again. Willing to experience.
Yeah.
There's so much success in willingness to experience. You know, that we've talked about that before on Blabs, and it applies to this topic here today, because whatever you're unwilling to experience, you're actually giving it power. You're creating more of it. So if you're unwilling to experience receiving feedback and therefore getting upset by it, or hearing that somebody doesn't like what you've created, then you're creating more upset for yourself.
Right.
So the key is to find the place, to shift your willingness to experience someone else's opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I remember it's obviously one long time ago. I've had lots of practice with it, but when I first was willingly reaching out to receive feedback on things, it was almost like I was like, okay, hit me with it. It was kind of like, okay, I'm ready to hear it. I'm going to hear it. I'm going to be okay with it. But it was like this kind of, oh no. And then you hear the feedback and you go, oh, okay, well, that actually really helped me and I didn't die. No one was rude or mean. This is actually quite a powerful experience. Next time I'll do it without crouching down.
I didn't melt when the water touched me. Wow. That's
cool.
Yeah, it's actually very empowering.
It is, because you don't know everything and you're on this journey where you're just learning as you're going. Everybody is. And so how can you empower yourself or do the best you can if you're not reaching out to get feedback and to get help from people who may have walked the path before you, who may know more than you, because you've only got this one way of thinking and looking at the world.
Yep. Yeah, it's what was the feedback is the breakfast of champions.
Yeah.
And the key for it, in my opinion, is willingness. Yeah, absolutely. That's without willingness, there's no point in even asking for feedback. I don't know if you've ever experienced it. I know I have, where someone asks for feedback, you give them your honest feedback, and they get upset with you because they don't like the feedback that you've given.
Yeah, all the time.
And that's not beneficial to anybody. That's not going to help anybody. That's not going to support anybody to shift or change or learn or make, choose something different.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, again, that willingness to listen and take on board. You can't ask for feedback, but only be willing to hear the feedback you want to hear, which is what
you can do that. It's just not real productive.
I know that happens with my eldest, Kalara. I think it was just recently. She asked me for, I can't remember what it was, opinion on something, and I gave it to her, and she wasn't happy with that because she wanted a particular type of feedback. And I just said, well, darling, that's what you asked me for, my feedback, and that's what I'm giving it. I'm not going to change it because you didn't like what I said. That was my honest opinion. And I'm not going to keep giving feedback while I guess what it is that you want to hear. Like, this is it.
Sure. And how many adults respond in that same way?
So many, yeah.
Yeah. So, we could go really blunt and say, well, look, if you want feedback, the most important thing about receiving feedback is pull your trousers up, pull your socks up, and be totally willing to hear what someone's opinion is.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's where you're going to find the gold nuggets of things that you hadn't looked at before. Things that you hadn't seen before, things that you just didn't even come into your awareness.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It requires a lot of bravery, and you can choose to do that. You can choose to be brave that way. And it's really funny because both giving and receiving feedback, they both require a lot of bravery.
Yeah, they do.
Not one or the other. They both do. Because, it's not nice to upset someone or to have someone get upset because of something that you said. So it does require a lot of bravery to be able to speak openly and share your opinions.
Yeah, it does. And I think it's really important people understand what the purpose of it is. I think some people may ask for feedback because there could be slight I'm not going to be able to pronounce that right, just as an opportunity to kind of perhaps beat up on themselves or to verify that they're not worthy enough. But I think to understand the purpose of the intention of it is to help you grow and improve. So therefore, I'm going to listen without taking it to heart and without making this make me feel like I'm not worthy enough. I think it's really important that people don't do that.
Yeah, I agree. And that sort of brings me to step 2, because if step 1 is about permission and willingness, well, step 2 is, I've just totally lost my train of thought. I got distracted by something. Not good for feedback. So it'll come back to me though, because step 1 is really about permission.
Mm-hmm.
Step 2 is about providing feedback on the work that's been done.
Not the person.
Not the person. So if I'm going to ask for permission to give feedback, well, the next step is, okay, can I have your permission to give feedback? And I'm going to give you feedback about this work,
mm-hmm.
not about you.
Not about you. And so
this isn't personal.
The person listening to that then will detach themselves from the work, because a lot of them may still attach themselves because they created the work. So if they created the work,
the feedback is about them as the human being.
Right, the person because it's their creation, they feel it's their soul, and there's something wrong with that. So to this idea,
and there's something wrong with me if I've done that.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if you're giving feedback, it's helpful to add that in.
Mm.
If you're receiving feedback, it's really important that you're able to be objective about that feedback and see that this is feedback about this work I've produced. This isn't feedback about me or my skills or whether or not I'm okay as a person. It's feedback about this work I've produced.
Mm.
And there's a real big difference between the two. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you always say, you are always okay. So even if it's something you've created, a work of art, a piece of writing, and you ask for feedback on that just because it's come from you, and there are things that always can be improved, it doesn't mean that you're not okay and there's something wrong with you.
Yep, absolutely. Hi, Latonya. Latonya's joined. I'm not sure how long ago she joined.
Hi,
I thought I'd say g'day.
G'day.
So yeah, that's and then step 3, in my opinion. Step 3 is about 2 things. It's about asking questions and it's about listening.
That's a hard one for a lot of people.
It is. And it doesn't matter which side of the fence you're sitting on. So if you're asking for feedback, or if you're asking permission to give feedback. If you're asking permission to give feedback, great. Ask lots of questions in order to find out, okay, so what were you thinking about this, and this when you created this? Tell me about how you approached it. Tell me about your thoughts about, what's the target market for this? Ask lots of questions. And then provide your feedback based on the answer to those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I think this misses the mark. If that's your target market, to me, this misses the mark, and this is the reason it misses the mark. You might be better off if you did da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, such a better way of doing it, yeah.
Now, if you're the person receiving feedback, listen, and then ask questions to clarify in order to make sure that you've understood what they're communicating to you.
And I think that's really an empowering step to offer people, because I think what tends to happen, and you'd know this as well, is that when people receive the feedback, they'll tend to want to launch into justification and reasoning and explaining, and then that's attaching themselves to the work. Whereas if
Correct.
they replace that if they can notice themselves doing that and instead replacing it with questions for further clarification, then it becomes a more useful and empowering exercise.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. So, you know, if you're not asking, if you're receiving feedback and you're not asking questions, then it's really bloody difficult to listen and make sure that you've actually understood what they've said. And it's likely that you've gone into your own emotional reaction of what they've said. So step out of that and ask lots of questions to make sure that you really thoroughly understand their feedback. Make sure that the word is duplicated. Make sure that it gets duplicated so that you can act on it.
Right.
Or choose not to act on it. You know, just because somebody gives you feedback doesn't mean that it's necessary for you to agree with them, and it doesn't mean that it's necessary for you to go and change something.
Right, yeah, and that is important for people to understand as well, and that comes down to a lot of self-worth and confidence too, is that you do have the choice, first of all, the choice to hear the feedback, second of all, the choice to decide whether that's feedback that you feel is applicable to your situation. And I'm guessing the more confident you feel, the better you get at understanding whether that's feedback and deciding whether that's something to take on or not.
Yeah, definitely. It's also, I think it's also important to make sure you don't make any decisions based on just one person's feedback.
Yeah, I was going to say, go and get some more.
yeah, go and get some more. Now, if you get 10 people's feedback and it's all the same, okay, look, it's probably time to have a look at what they've said. If they're all saying the same thing, well, okay, it's time to have a look, right?
Yeah.
But acting on just one person's feedback, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that that's smart, irrespective of who the person is. So, you know, you're, you know, at the end of the day, your opinion matters and is valuable, right?
Yes.
So don't just jump and change because one person says something to you.
Yeah.
Listen and take it on board and make sure you understand it and document it, and then go and get more feedback. Go and find out from others what they think and feel as well.
Yeah, totally. I just wanted to share a visual I have too, just to help people if they're, you know, we're talking about this idea of detaching ourselves, separating ourselves from the work. I feel like some people, they might not understand how to do that and what it looks and feels like. So for me, I just have a visual picture in my mind of when I'm receiving feedback where I actually visually separate the work from myself. So I kind of push it away from me over to the side, and just that visual image in my mind helps me to actually detach and to understand the work is over there and I'm here and we're not necessarily connected.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's like that work is an output. You know, your effort and intention and awareness and attention went to that work, and you've produced it, but it's not you. It's not the same as you.
No.
It's not part of you. You put energy and effort into it, and it's separate from you.
Yeah.
So, three steps to giving and receiving feedback.
So let's clarify them. Asking permission, detaching yourself. Is that the second one? So
first one's ask permission.
Yes.
Yep. The second one is to, this happened again. It's gone out my mind. Ask permission. I'm going to replay it and make notes because I didn't actually write down the thought. But
yeah, I think when you just do it naturally as well, it's sometimes hard to latch onto the definitions you have for it because it's just a natural thing. But I know the third one is listening and asking clarifying questions.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, the three steps are there. I'll go and look at it and put it in the notes because it would have been good if I'd actually written that down first.
Yeah.
So
that's why we have recorded things.
Yep, absolutely. Digital recording makes life easy.
Totally.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Kaz. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
See you then.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.